Winston Churchill call on the 5th of June 1940 for the raising of parachute troops on a scale equal to 5,000, as one way of taking the fight to Nazi Germany's fortress Europe. Certainly, fear of the exact opposite, an invasion of Britain by German parachutists, was something that had preoccupied government and civilians for much of the war. The alarm was first raised in the House of Commons on the 13th of May 1940, just 3 days into Germany's Blitzkrieg campaign, when a concerned MP asked Anthony Eden, the Secretary of State for War, whether, in order to meet the imminent danger of enemy parachute landings in this country, he would consider raising a voluntary corps composed of older, responsible men to be armed with rifles and Bren guns and trained for instant action in their own localities. Eden said yes. The matter had been receiving urgent attention in the light of recent events, and he hoped to make an announcement at a very early date. He was as good as his word. On the 14th of May 1940, Eden appealed on BBC Radio for people to join the newly raised Local Defence Volunteers, later renamed the Home Guard, and depicted on British television in the 1970s in the popular sitcom Dad's Army. And within 6 days, more than 250,000 people had answered the call. One of their key roles, Eden's deputy, Sir John Grieg, told the House of Commons on the 22nd of May, was to act as parachutists, who would deal with small enemy parties landing from the air. On the 4th of June, as part of his rousing "We shall fight on the beaches" speech, Churchill warned of the dangers of enemy parachute landings. A couple of weeks later, the Ministry of Information issued every household with a pamphlet entitled "If the Invader Comes, What to Do and How to Do It." But even as the invasion threat receded with defeat for Germany in the aerial battle of Britain in 1940, the War Ministry was responding to Churchill's call by creating its own airborne capability. These forces, the legendary Red Devils, were some of the finest combat troops of the Second World War. They began as a single parachute battalion of 500 men and grew into 3 10,000-strong airborne divisions, the 1st, 6th, and 44th Indian, each composed of parachutists and glider-borne troops. Wearing their distinctive maroon berets, steel helmets, and Dennison smocks, they served with distinction in every major theatre of the conflict, including North Africa, Sicily, mainland Europe, and the Far East, and played a starring role in some of the most iconic airborne operations in history: the Bruneval Raid of February 1942, the capture of the Primasole, Pegasus and Arnhem Bridges in July 1943, June 1944, and September 1944, respectively, and Operation Varsity, the biggest single-day parachute drop in history, near Wesel in Germany in March 1945. The difference between parachutists and glider troops was stark. The former leapt from planes at altitudes as low as 400 feet and oscillated towards terra firma beneath a flimsy silk canopy. The latter effectively crash-landed in a large box of steel, plywood and fabric that was not unlike a section of the London Tube Railway in miniature. Both methods of insertion were extremely hazardous, but few of the para-boys would have swapped places with the glider lads, and vice versa. John Howard, the hero of Pegasus Bridge, was genuinely surprised when a fellow officer moved from gliders to parachutes because he could imagine few worse situations than jumping out of an aircraft, praying his canopy would open, and unsure where he would land. It was, in his view, infinitely preferable to arrive by glider with a pilot in charge. The paraboys felt just as strongly that they didn't want to prang into action. Their rivalry was enhanced by the fact that parachutists received more risk money than glider lads, 2 extra shillings a day compared to a single shilling, the cause of much ill-feeling among the glider troops. The one thing they all had in common was that they had volunteered for highly dangerous duty. The sooner, the better. A parachutist was free to choose what he took with him, as long as he kept within the load quota. Company Sergeant Major Jack Harries of Merville Battery fame, for example, jumped bearing a Sten gun and 4 magazines, 2 Mark 36 Mills grenades, a phosphorus grenade, 3 gammon bombs, gas cape, camouflage net, knife, ground-to-air recognition triangle, mess tin, 24-hour ration pack, map, message pad, entrenching tool, bootlaces, spare socks, singlets and briefs, small...